Hi, I'm Dallas Plattner, the Director of Delivery for the Solutions Division here. And today, Leo and I are going to go through and explain a little bit about the ServiceNow Security Operations product suite. Within the Security Operations product suite, I'm going to basically discuss and show you how ServiceNow helps managers track security incidents and how security incidents handlers tackle their work far more efficiently and effectively than ever before. So first, I'm going to start with the big picture, and then I'm going to dive into key elements of the solution. So currently on the screen that I'm showing within ServiceNow, I'm logged in as Mr. Lynn, Andrew Lynn up at the top. Andrew Lynn is a manager. He is able to see specific dashboards and has different views based upon the access control rules that are assigned to this user. So dashboards like this can be used by organizations to report upon statuses of security incidents. So the dashboard that we're currently looking at is the Security Operations Efficiency Dashboard. This dashboard gives you 4 tabs across the top that gives you a compilation of different reports contained within each of the tabs. So under the Analyst Efficiency tab, this is one, like I said, that's included with security incident response. You can see big picture trends and break them down by aspects, such as analyst efficiency and group efficiency. So you can see the open security incidents by analyst, the closed security incidents per analyst, time to incident resolution, mean security incident age, plus some additional metrics across the bottom. The next tab that I'm going to show you is the detection and response effectiveness tab. So what this does is it shows you true versus false positive by incident source. So it allows you to identify the incident source for your security incident to be able to understand where your potential issues are coming from. This does give you the true positive security incidents, critical false positive security incidents, a false positive risk score, and false positive security incident duration, plus some additional metrics or individual reports that can be further sorted by specific information such as year to date on the security incident source volume analysis. And then you can also see and sort additional things on the security incident backlog analysis and closed security incident analysis if desired, to give you a larger snapshot in time of your closed security incidents or your security incident backlog. The next one is incident risk score analysis. This is basically going to show you business risk over time. So the first one that's showing is the total risk exposure analysis, and then you have security analyst work by total risk score, and then security analyst work by mean risk score. You can also sort these individual reports by a different breakdown, such as security assigned to, security incident risk score, plus some additional things such as category, age, and subcategory. You also do have those same sorts on the security analyst work by mean risk score as well. The final tab before I ask Leo a few questions here is the security incident stage analysis tab. So this basically gives you an idea of the incident stage for your security incidents and shows you with the number denoted here for each of the stages where your security incidents currently reside. This also does, when one is clicked on, right, gives you some additional information for the different states that are there, such as mean age, affected configuration items, obviously tying it back to IT or the larger IT organization, affected business services, and then some additional metrics across the top. So before I move on to another dashboard, which I think is extremely important here, which is the CISO dashboard, Leo, do you see this potentially as being able to provide a manager the relevant information quickly and effectively to break down the potential silos that exist between IT and security operations?
Oh, exactly. One of the biggest features or the biggest contributions that this particular module in ServiceNow has is really to increase the collaboration between the cybersecurity teams and IT operations. When one of the challenges that comes with the security team is that they do have their own specific security tool sets, and this is This is the ServiceNow aspect of this is not going to supplant or replace any of these. These are actually for collaboration with IT. So if an incident occurs, usually what happens is even though your security team is working on it, they're pulling in and communicating with IT people across the board. This is all, this particular module, it's basically working with the existing IT teams and their tools like ServiceNow and figuring out how do we all work together both in a as automated and collaborative and a documented way to let everybody know what's going on right now with security events. And this is the biggest power, is the collaboration and the integration between the tools and the teams and the communications.
Yeah, I do appreciate those comments, Leo. I think it's a very important thing to note, like you talked about, the silos that actually exist between those organizations, and trying to break those barriers is what ServiceNow has done with the scalability and the different platforms that exist within the single platform. So, does this necessarily make sense from, an organization to specifically purchase SecOps, as a standalone, application here, or from what you see? Or do you think that, in my mind, I mean, I know the answer in my mind, but if someone has like ITSM or something like that, somebody's already purchased ServiceNow, do you see this, so far from what you've seen, potentially that this being a beneficial product suite for security organizations to potentially purchase if they have an instance?
No, I actually think it pays for itself literally on the very first incident that occurs. A lot of the incidents that occur on the security side have a time, the time to infection is so quick that if you don't have your processes down to, even in some cases minutes, literally your entire company could be, you could, I think the average time that I've seen for ransomware to infect an entire company is about an hour. So if your processes between when the security guys detect an event or get alerted to an event, so let's take, for example, a ransomware. I mean, your IT department could detect it and say, hey, we need to send this over to the security guys. The security guys may say, oh, yeah, it is a ransomware. Let's start working on it. And then start pulling in IT people to say, hey, let's get this started. If that time period is longer than an hour, you literally risk your entire company having to pay anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million in ransomware for one incident. So is this possible? I'm not going to say that this module will stop ransomware, but what we'll do is it'll reduce your time to remediation or time to detection much lower. So your risk of actually having to pay something, or the time of recovery and detection is lowered much quickly to your internal processes, to the point where you're greatly reducing the risk of impacting your business. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's gonna it would almost instantly pay for itself on one incident. If a company has multiple incidents, it's definitely paying for itself automatically throughout the processes then.
Yeah, so that old adage, time is money, is never more true when it comes to ransomware, it sounds like, right?
Oh, yeah.
So within this, right, within that tab, that detection and response effectiveness, and even that security incident stage analysis, right, getting an idea of basically your response time for the different states to contain something, obviously is important for someone like a CISO or a manager within security operations to be able to quickly ascertain, to be able to assess whether or not his team is effectively responding to these incidents that have been ingested by this system. So I do appreciate those comments. I think the next one's going to add probably some even more factual basis, or give us a better idea, right, about how important it is within that to be able to respond. And within this one, it's a CISO dashboard, and it's basically, once again, a compilation of different reports that can be created using the native ServiceNow report engine via drag and drop dashboards. Very easy to do, and it gives that sense to a CISO in this particular instance, that quick, graphical representation of data that's going to obviously be important for them to assess the state of their security incidents and their security operations, organizations. So, the first tab that we're seeing is the overview tab, right? Which basically gives us information from teams across risk, policy compliance, configuration management, vulnerability response, and security incident response. These, like I talked about, the dashboard tabs can be created and organized data specifically based upon, critical things up top, less critical things down below, right? Because you can see that there obviously is a bunch of reports that are associated with this. So, if you want your most important things oriented at the top, you can very easily do so within the drag and drop operations within ServiceNow. However, the information pertaining to this, right, and these are just examples of information contained in the system based upon demo data. So it's not realistic data from a mean time to remediate, because like Leo explained, if someone's waiting 37.2 days to respond to an incident that has been identified, that presents a huge problem and a big monetary risk to a company. But this does give you an idea of the average vulnerabilities per assets, the mean time to remediate, so that in TTR, the average age of vulnerabilities. This also does give you an idea of countries with most vulnerabilities. You could design this to be divisions, right? So across IT, have different divisions that are there, or across your entire organization, to show where the vulnerabilities exist. That would then in turn allow someone, right, to potentially come in and counterbalance that or increase the security posture within that organization. So Leo, I mean, within that statement, do you see that that is being beneficial to pinpoint your vulnerabilities that are there per division to be able to potentially increase your posture?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because one of the reasons I like this dashboard is that it communicates to people outside of the cyber team what the criticalities are that are important. So like, for example, one of the things that I would almost instantly do is try to track down, make decisions on organization-based and then systems-based on critical data. So I would specifically have a row there that basically says, these systems that have my critical data that have been identified by the business, here's their average mean time, average vulnerability, and days of resolution. So if it's critical data systems in different business units, and those should be less than a couple of hours. If you're seeing any metric that goes into days, that means that your organization now has a high risk of your critical data being exposed to ransomware, other malware, etc. And you can present this to any leadership in your organization to say, hey, here's our critical system, here's the current risk to our critical systems. It's a great way to visually represent the data at any given time.
Perfect. No, I appreciate those comments. So the next thing I think that's important here is to discuss, and I'm going to switch basically to security incidents, specifically so you can see the tables that have captured ingested security incidents into the system. So I think it's probably important for our audience to be able to explain, different information there about the difference between, this system as security incident response and the ingestion methods and how it actually works with the SIEM, and maybe explain the difference, or provide what a SIEM actually is, to show that this system as we're showing it isn't necessarily a SIEM, but takes information from the SIEM. So I won't steal much more of your thunder there. I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, no, so that's actually a really good point that I want to make sure the people who are listening really understand. This is not a replacement for a security event information manager, which is called a SIEM. That is a specialized tool that security teams usually have available to detect, track, and process security events. They collect data and events to basically resolve those. Now, realistically, they don't do that in isolation. There's event monitors for operations teams, network teams. They may use the same data, but the goal for those is completely different. This module here is really, it's a great module, because this is basically where you can track an incident. And if you say, hey, this system needs to be patched, well, that's actually something that an IT operations team would do. So you can actually send that off and then track the incidents here. And everybody can see in the company the status of events that have been triggered and are tracked. This goes back to the collaboration. You really want that collaboration to reduce the time of resource. You don't want to, your security team doesn't want to say, hey, I need an IT or an admin assigned to this, and then you don't know what they're doing, especially on time critical incidents. This way there's visibility, there's automation across all those processes, and specifically there's visibility for managers to say, hey, where can I contribute and make sure that there are no bottlenecks that are stopping the resolution of this particular event.
Perfect. So based upon what you just said, right, and what I kind of preluded to within that, there are different ingestion methods and security integrations that can actually be associated with or tied back to the ServiceNow instance. What you're seeing now is an example of those security integrations, across the board, where you can actually configure the event ingestion, such as Splunk here, right, Rapid7, Tenable, Qual System, Carbon Black, CrowdStrike. Like the list goes on and on for those event monitoring systems, external, to be able to capture the different events or security events and then translate those in based upon the configuration that would actually be set up here and tied into the ServiceNow system. So, Leo, based upon what you're seeing on the screen, do you think that the ingestion methods and the platform that ServiceNow ties to would make sense to a company, or a lot of companies out there probably have a system like this or a SIEM that's similar to the ones that are currently showing on the screen, if not the ones physically on the screen?
Right, and that's a good point, because a lot of the ones that are on the screen are the more enterprise, well-known. It's a great function that you can literally plug and play with this particular module. Again, these are specialized tools on the security side, so you're not expecting your IT team to retrain or train them on. This is an ingestion process where either your managed service or your security team is using this tool, and they've configured it to send, to create events to be tracked. Now, and I'm using that word very carefully, because there's events and then there's security events, right? They're not interchangeable. Just so somebody, you may have an employee that basically says, hey, something's going on with my computer. It's an event. With a little bit of investigation, you may realize, oh, this is a security event, and that would trigger something to go to the security team, or vice versa. The security team could find something out, thinking that there's a concern, like the network is being, there's bottlenecks in the network that look like they're an attack, and they could send it to this, and they basically say, no, it's not an attack, it's a marketing campaign that just has a lot of traffic. So until there's verification, and this goes back to the collaboration of between the different teams and organizations, you want to make sure that you have that as quickly as possible to make a determination to reduce that time to resolution.
Yep. I do appreciate those comments too, and providing that delineation between an event and a security event, I think, is once again important for the audience here, or anybody listening into this conversation, because really, in theory, ServiceNow has an event management component as a part of it, right? It falls under a different system or a different product suite than what we're talking about here. But defining and explaining that security events are something completely different is a good way to make our viewer focus more myopic instead of that broader range, because we're specifically talking here about security operations and security incident response. So I do appreciate that. And the only other thing that I'm going to add here, right, it just shows you kind of when you hover over, if somebody was concerned about the type of integration that would be there, it does provide you hoverovers and explanations for what the system does, right? So the Splunk one specifically provides that REST API that can consume logging alerts and notable events to create security incidents. You can enable the configuration to be able to create that security incident within the ServiceNow system as fed in from the Splunk, system. So, any final parting points on that before I shift to the security incident workspace?
No, the only thing I would really kind of point out is that you really don't want to do this module in isolation. When you're integrating it, make sure that your security team is part of this so that they can review their existing tool sets and make sure they, that you understand what what can be ingested and what can't be ingested. That's something that needs to be worked out, and I would almost say has to be worked out before you do this, because you already need to have those processes. And this is really kind of the automation part that you need to be concerned about. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, one of the nice things about this particular module is that it is very configurable. I'm actually kind of surprised that I would be surprised if they were having a tool that didn't integrate seamlessly into this.
Yep. Very good points. The whole intention of this, obviously, is ServiceNow knows that they need to work with some of these other big players in the market, right? And make it so they can communicate and have that handshake, appropriately coming in through that ingestion method, to be able to create security incident response to make, someone within the security operations division substantially, more efficient in the way that they actually do their job, whether it be the manager or, within what I'm currently showing, an incident handler, right?
Exactly.
So what we're showing here, or what I'm showing here, is security incidents, right? So incidents assigned to different teams. It's going to give you some, ideas about across the top about the states. So if there's any new incidents with a priority equals critical, which, time is money, like we've already discussed here. So if you have critical, security incidents, obviously those need to be pinpointed and handled first, to lessen the damage associated with something like a ransomware hack. You also have some additional things across the top. I'm not going to focus, too much on it, but I do want to show you and give the audience a sense of what an incident actually looks like when it comes into the system, what a security incident handler actually sees. And to note, like you talked about, not only is the system highly configurable with its ingestion methods, but the system and the specific tables and the user interface is also highly configurable. So, if you didn't want to see these column headers up above, such as, the security incident, which is SIR is a prefix distinction that is showing that this is a security incident instead of a normal incident like INC with a number following it. So there is a delineation if someone does have incident, an ITSM space here, and then security incident, they're going to go into two separate tables. It requires a different role to be able to see the security incidents, right? So you can still silo it to the level that you need to silo it to based upon roles and permissions and ACLs, or access control lists. But it does give you the ability to allow people to see certain things and others to not, if that's what an organization so desires. So within this security incident, what we're looking at here, right, short description, category, a risk score. Risk scores can be highly configurable, and are highly configurable based upon different things in the system. So you can weight them appropriately, and it actually gets into a very complex matrix that can, be configured and changed appropriately. But this is just the overall view here specifically, that an incident handler sees. So if we actually open the record, it's going to open a different view, right? It's going to give you an overview associated with different information here. The ability to explore different things to see if there were any affected users, or things like that. The interesting thing within this one, right, is you can also go into a list, and it does give you the ability to see the tab there. So if you're like, well, that's not the one I really wanted to open up, I actually wanted to see this other incident, you do have the ability, right, and it tabs it just like any internet browser to be able to see across the top and see the different information pertaining to it. So within this one, which is substantially more built out, you can see that this was, a part of a demo data, or an incident was created for phishing, right? With an affected user, a traffic light protocol, right? So you can even limit it within your security operations team, right? So if you have very high level or big time security related issues within a security incident, based upon keywords or algorithms that can be run, you can actually assign assign traffic light protocol within the system here, or actually go into it and have it automatically assigned based upon machine learning or the keywords there. So it's a white, yellow, red, currently just like a stoplight, as you would see. So anything that is a traffic light protocol red, it would be that high level incident that it has to be handled by the specific person with the relevant credentials to be able to accomplish the task for your eyes only type person. So Leo, do you see benefit in something like that within security organizations with different credentials handling different types of security incidents?
Yeah, no, this this passes what I call my 2 a.m. test, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure why, but it seems like most security, critical events that take down a business always seem to happen at like 2 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like when things happen at that time of the morning, you have to figure out people are sleepy, they're tired, etc. So you want to keep your processes as simple and as automated as possible so that things can get done as quickly as possible. So if you woke up at 2 in the morning, you want to know that the incident was prioritized. It went through a process of filtering. It got to the right people for access. Um, and this particular module is really kind of nice because if you have the processes already defined, you can automate these processes so that if an incident occurs, within minutes, the right person is assigned to it and has all the information they have. And if they're not the right person, they can instantly send it off to the right person to make sure that it's escalated correctly. So absolutely.
Perfect. No, I do appreciate those comments, because like you said, I doubt hackers operate or, ransomwares come in a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5, time frame. So if a system can automatically ingest, security events that have been registered or captured somewhere else, and based upon the information being fed in from that event and building in the keywords to be able to assign it to the relevant person and a criticality there or a risk score, that I think that becomes beneficial within the system.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, the one point I also want to raise is that, I mean, I know I'm talking about the criticality of a lot of these issues.
Mhm.
One of the things that is not so obvious here is that I'm not sure that a lot of people are actually aware of all the thousands, if not millions, of alerts that a security team gets that are false positives. So
Mhm.
they, on a daily basis, they could be receiving thousands and thousands of security events that are tagged.
Yep.
And this type of process really kind of enables not just the team, but the system itself to filter through those automatically and to provide details of why they're critical.
Yep.
It makes the research and forensics collaboration between the IT team and the security team much better.
Perfect. So, one of the things that's important to note here, right, like I was showing earlier in the previous, system is you do have the ability to explore the incident, right, and identify observables or configuration items, any incident, similar security incidents, risk score audit, tasks, things like that, within the Explore tab that's there. So I think it does give security incident handlers the ability to see things and potentially understand how attacks may be similar in design, right? Or security incidents are similar in design, and assess whether or not the risk score and the calculations there in the matrix that's backing it are appropriate. It does also give you the ability, like we talked about and Leo mentioned, the time is money perspective. So the system does give you an incident timeline and the ability for security handlers to be able to see that incident timeline, to see when it was first identified, and the time that it actually took to complete that. So you can see the system assigned it automatically to Adam Long. Risk score was changed to 47 to 38 due to associated effective users, right? So where we talked about the risk score can become extremely complex. If you have a VIP user, a CEO of a company is being hacked, or an incident that is utilizing the CEO's email, those are things that can get a higher risk score that increase your criticality of or the priority of the incident. You do also have within the system the ability to design playbooks and actually automate processes there to be able to analyze, contain, and eradicate, and be able to work through and get to the point of completing it. So you can see here on the right side of the screen, right, that within eradicate it was completed, and who it was completed by, and the group with additional information to be able to pop up or to be able to show. And you can also compose emails to the person that was affected here, specifically to say, hey, I contained this or I eradicated this because of this specific reason. So you can keep people in the loop as much as you want within the system and compose emails directly from the ServiceNow system. So, Leo, I guess with that being said, any parting words associated with this high-level overview of security incident response from a manager to an incident handler?
No, I mean, that's, I like to use there's a lot of threats in cyber, but one of the ones that really shows the criticality of, the handling an event is ransomware, right? I mean, one of the things is the fast spread of it. So one of the great things about this particular one is somebody could show up and say, hey, one computer has ransomware, and the security in the IT team could be working on it. But if they start popping up, you actually start getting a sense of like, hey, wait a minute, it's spreading. You need to either do something drastic or not.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to catch that kind of infection rate if you don't have visibility to this. And again, this is the time of speed, communication, and automation helps you resolve that kind of attack.
Perfect. And I think, for follow-on conversations or, additional webinars in the future, there are some additional things such as threat intelligence and some additional applications that actually fall under the SecOps, product suite within ServiceNow that we can, further discuss later on. But, I do appreciate your time today, Leo, and the insightful thoughts and comments that you made, and the delineation that you did provide associated with defining certain things that is beneficial and important for viewers of this video to understand. So once again, thank you, Leo. Do appreciate it. And if there are any questions, associated with this, please follow up with the either appropriate channels that are provided or shown or through how this is actually shared, or visit our website, CRIadvantage.com, and we can help you out with anything from cybersecurity to ServiceNow to staff augmentation. So once again, thanks, Leo. Do appreciate it. And thanks to everyone that ends up viewing this, or if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to contact us.
Yep, my pleasure. And we're always available to help our clients in any way, shape, or form with this.
Perfect. Thanks, Leo.